Everything you are is already known to your body. It is not something you have to explain or express in words. It is not something you have to tell others or even admit to yourself in language. The body knows. It records. It reflects. Every experience you've had, every moment of joy, of pain, of hesitation, of fear, it is not lost, it is stored. Sometimes in your breath, sometimes in the way you walk, sometimes in the tension of your shoulders, the weight of your step, or the subtle tremble in your fingers when nobody is watching. The body remembers even when the mind forgets. This is why the body is the most honest mirror. You can tell yourself stories. You can convince your mind of many things. You can even distract yourself from what's real. But the body is not easily fooled. It does not lie. And this is especially true when it comes to fear. Because fear, whether acknowledged or ignored, makes its imprint. It doesn't disappear because you decide not to look at it. On the contrary, it goes deeper. When you pretend, it hides behind your reactions, in the tightness of your breath, in the stiffness of your jaw, in the clenching of your gut. It may also appear somewhere more symbolic, like a line across your palm, subtle but clear, waiting to be noticed. People often look at these lines without really seeing them. They glance, perhaps out of curiosity or entertainment, but they do not listen. They do not ask, why is this line here? What does it mean that it is broken here or strong here? What does it mean that it curves inward or stops short? Because to truly ask these questions is to invite something uncomfortable. The possibility that the line is not random, but meaningful, that it is not decoration but direction, that it does not simply exist on your hand but inside your being. To ignore this line is not about disbelief. It is about avoidance. It is about the refusal to confront something deeper. You may tell yourself it is superstition, that it has no science, no proof, but behind that explanation is a more subtle defense. The fear of what you might discover if you look too closely. Because this line, the so-called line of fear, is not a fortune-telling gimmick. It is a reflection. It is the echo of a place in your life where energy has been disrupted, where movement has stopped, where something painful was buried. It is not about prediction. It is about recognition. When a person looks into a mirror and sees a wound, they have two options. One is to look away, to cover it, to pretend it's not there. The other is to examine it, to sit with it, to ask what caused it and what is needed to heal it. Most people choose the first path, not because they are weak, but because they are conditioned to fear discomfort. They are taught that suffering should be suppressed, that fear should be denied, that vulnerability is dangerous. So they ignore the signs, the tension, the exhaustion, the unease. They ignore the line. But that line is there for a reason. It is a marker, not of failure, but of history. It shows that something happened, that something touched you so deeply it left an imprint. And instead of trying to erase it, what if you tried to understand it? What if instead of fearing that line, you met it with curiosity? What if you asked, what is this line trying to teach me? What fear have I not yet faced? There are many fears. The fear of not being enough, the fear of being alone, the fear of being judged, the fear of failure, the fear of success, the fear of change, the fear of staying the same. But beneath all of these, there is often a single deeper fear, the fear of seeing yourself as you truly are, without illusion, without story, without shield. Because to see yourself clearly is to lose all excuses. It is to realize that the only thing stopping you from healing, from evolving, from becoming, is the resistance within. Not the world, not other people, not circumstances, but you. That is a truth many are not ready to face. So they distract themselves with goals, with ambition, with busyness, with external pursuits. But even in the midst of all of that motion, the line remains quiet, unmoving, waiting. And it waits, not to punish you, but to free you. Because the moment you stop ignoring it, the moment you acknowledge that something inside you still hurts, still fears, still longs. That is the moment change begins. Awareness is the first doorway. Nothing can transform until it is seen. And when it is seen with gentleness and honesty, it begins to dissolve. Not because you fight it, but because you no longer feed it with denial. So I ask you, when was the last time you were truly still? Not just physically, but internally. When was the last time you sat with your own being, without distraction, and listened? When was the last time you placed your hand before you and looked, not with superstition, but with sacred attention? When was the last time you saw your body as a temple, not a machine, not an object, but a living scripture? Because your body is scripture, it is written with the ink of your experiences. Every breath, every scar, every wrinkle, every line, it is all part of your story. And within that story, the lines on your hand are not random, they are symbols. They are invitations. And some of them, especially the one we speak of now, point to the most sacred threshold, the place where fear meets freedom. The reason this line is important is not because it tells your future, it's because it reveals your present. It shows you what you still carry, what you have not yet faced. And it is only by facing it that you can truly move forward. You cannot walk freely while dragging chains behind you. You cannot fly while holding onto the ground. You cannot expand while shrinking inside. So the real question is not whether this line is real. The real question is whether you are ready to be real with yourself. Whether you are ready to admit that there is a part of you, silent, hidden, wounded, that still needs your attention. Because healing does not come from avoidance. It comes from presence. It comes from courage. It comes from the willingness to be with yourself fully, especially in the places that feel most tender. And here is the paradox. The very thing you fear to face is the key to your power. The line you ignore is the doorway to your depth. The discomfort you resist is the birthplace of your awakening. But you will never know this unless you stop running, unless you slow down, unless you become still enough to listen. When we train in the temple, we are not just training the body, we are training awareness. Every movement, every breath, every silence, it is designed to reveal what is hidden, to bring into light what the mind tries to suppress. Because that is the true discipline, not just to master the outer form, but to illuminate the inner shadows. In this way, your training ground is not just the mat or the hall or the monastery, it is your own body. It is your own hand. It is this line, look at it, not as something strange or foreign, but as something deeply intimate. It is not separate from you, it is you. It is your reflection, your reminder. And if you choose to honor it, it will guide you. Some will say, I don't want to know what I fear, I just want to be free from fear. But that is like saying, I don't want to understand pain, I just want to feel no pain. Freedom does not come from ignorance. It comes from understanding, from compassion, from presence. If you want to be free from fear, you must walk through it. You must see it. You must embrace it. And the first step is to acknowledge where it lives. In your body, in your breath, and yes, perhaps even in your hand. So let this line be a teacher. Let it remind you that the body is always speaking, that your life is not separate from your inner world, that every pattern on the surface has roots in the unseen, and that by looking, by really looking, you begin to see not just the fear, but the strength behind it. Not just the wound, but the wisdom. Not just the pain, but the path. To ignore this line is to ignore a message from your own soul. But to see it, to sit with it, to learn from it, that is the beginning of mastery. Not mastery over others, but mastery over self. And that is the highest path. The path of the inner warrior. The path of awakening. So place your hand before you, be still, be honest, and ask, what have I not dared to see? That question is the key. That line is the answer. And your willingness to listen, that is your liberation. Fear is something we all know intimately. It is not a stranger visiting only once in a while. It is a constant companion, sometimes whispered softly, sometimes roaring loudly inside our chest. And yet, many people live as if fear is an enemy, to be defeated or ignored, as if by denying its presence it will disappear. But this is not the way. Fear is not something outside of you that must be fought or run from. Fear is a part of you. It lives inside your bones, in your breath, in the rhythm of your heart. It is a signal, a teacher, a guardian of the threshold where growth begins. The truth is that the fear you avoid is exactly the door you must open. This is not just a poetic phrase. It is a fundamental law of transformation. Wherever fear shows up strongest, whether it is fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of loss, or fear of the unknown, that is the place you are meant to look. That is the place where you have not yet dared to step. And behind that fear lies a deeper truth waiting to be discovered. Consider for a moment how your life is shaped by what you fear. Every decision you make is influenced, whether consciously or unconsciously, by your fears. The places you do not go, the words you do not say, the dreams you do not chase. Behind all of these lies a boundary drawn by fear. Sometimes it is obvious, a clear no to an opportunity or a challenge. Sometimes it is subtle, a hesitation, a second thought, a moment of silence. But always it is there, shaping your world quietly but powerfully. Many people want to live without fear. They want to be brave all the time. But bravery is not the absence of fear. Bravery is feeling the fear and moving forward anyway. It is not a mask to hide fear, but a heart that welcomes it. And this is why the door behind fear is so vital. Because if you want to live a life of courage, a life of true freedom, you must walk through that door. You cannot simply stand before it and hope it will open on its own. You must reach out your hand, turn the knob, and step inside. This is not easy. The door may be old and heavy, covered in dust and cobwebs of past pain. It may creak and groan as you push it open. It may reveal shadows you have never seen before, but every step through it is a step toward yourself, toward a life lived fully, toward the truth that you are stronger than you thought. Many of us have built entire lives avoiding this door. We have learned to build walls, to distract ourselves, to numb out with all kinds of habits. We keep ourselves busy so that we never have to feel the ache beneath the surface. We surround ourselves with noise, phones, screens, social chatter, so that the silence, where fear often speaks loudest, is drowned out. But the more we avoid, the bigger the shadow grows. Fear does not shrink because you ignore it. It expands in the dark. What if, instead of running, you turned and faced it? What if you invited that fear in as a guest, not an enemy? What would it say? What would you hear? When you stop to listen, fear often reveals itself not as a monster, but as a scared child. A part of you that wants protection, understanding, and love. The parts that you buried under shame, doubt, or regret. The parts that feel small, weak, or unworthy. And this is where compassion becomes essential. You cannot walk through this door with harshness or judgment. You must carry tenderness with you. You must embrace your fear as you would a wounded friend. So the fear you avoid is often tied to your deepest wounds. Maybe it is the fear of not being enough, because someone once told you that you were not worthy. Maybe it is the fear of abandonment, because you were left alone when you were young. Maybe it is the fear of failure, because you once tried and were met with harsh criticism. Whatever its source, this fear is not random. It is a map of your past, written not in words but in feeling. And understanding this map helps you navigate the present. This is why the process of opening this door is also a process of healing. When you meet your fear, you also meet the wound beneath it. You meet the story you have been carrying, the story that shaped your boundaries and limited your vision. You see it not to blame yourself, but to free yourself, to rewrite the story with awareness and grace. Fear often convinces us that it is protecting us, keeping us safe from harm. And in some ways it is right. Fear can alert us to danger, to situations that require caution. But when fear becomes the gatekeeper of your life, it stops being helpful. It becomes a prison. It keeps you small, stuck, and disconnected from your potential. The question then becomes, how do you transform fear from prison guard to guide? How do you open this door and walk through it without losing yourself? The answer is presence. The answer is patience. The answer is steady, compassionate attention. Presence means being here, fully, with whatever arises inside you. Not pushing away the discomfort, not chasing after pleasure, not distracting yourself. Simply being with what is. When fear arises, feel it. Notice where it lives in your body. Is it a tightness in your chest, a knot in your stomach, a trembling in your hands? Observe without judgment. This simple act of witnessing begins to weaken fear's grip, because fear cannot survive in the light of awareness. Patience means giving yourself time. Transformation is not instant. It does not happen overnight. The door behind fear is often thick with layers. Some layers may be easy to peel away. Others may take years. But every small step forward matters. Every moment you choose presence over avoidance is a victory. It is a seed planted in the soil of your growth. Compassion means treating yourself kindly in this process. It means forgiving your hesitations, your setbacks, your moments of retreat. It means understanding that fear is universal and that you are not alone in your struggle. Compassion opens the heart and softens the resistance. It allows you to be gentle with yourself, even as you challenge yourself. As you walk through this door, you begin to see fear differently. You realize it is not the end of the road, but the beginning of a new path. You begin to understand that fear and courage are two sides of the same coin. That without fear, courage cannot exist. That fear is not the absence of strength, but a sign that strength is growing. This realization changes everything. Suddenly, the line that once seemed like a boundary becomes a bridge. The door that seemed locked becomes an invitation. The fear that once ruled you becomes a teacher. It is the moment when you stop fleeing and start facing. When you stop shrinking and start expanding. When you stop hiding. Many people wait for the fear to go away before they move forward. They hope for a time when they will feel ready, when the fear will be less, when the path will be clear. But this waiting is an illusion. The fear will never completely disappear. It will always be there, in some form. The true mastery is learning to move with fear, not without it. To walk through the door even when the fear is loudest. There is great power in this, because fear, when embraced, becomes fuel. It becomes the fire that ignites your passion, the force that drives your growth, the catalyst for your transformation. But this power can only be accessed when you choose to open the door. When you stop ignoring the fear and start inviting it in. The journey through this door is not solitary. You are not the first to face this fear. You are part of a long line of warriors, mystics, and seekers who have walked this path. Their footsteps are echoes in the silence. Their courage is a torch passed down through generations, and their wisdom is a guide for you now. So as you stand before this door, remember, the fear you avoid is not your enemy. It is your guide. It is the compass pointing toward your growth. It is the threshold where you move from limitation to possibility. The moment you choose to open it is the moment your life begins to change. This choice requires courage, yes, but it also requires trust. Trust in yourself. Trust in the process. Trust in the unfolding of your path. Trust that beyond the fear, there is a life waiting for you. A life of freedom, purpose, and peace. You may not see this life clearly yet. The path may be shrouded in mist, but every step you take toward the door clears the way. Every breath you take in presence opens the lock. Every moment you meet fear with compassion cracks the door open wider. The door will not open on its own. You must be the one to turn the handle, to push, to step through. And when you do, you will find that fear has changed shape. It is no longer a barrier. It is a gateway. This is the truth many do not realize. Fear is not the end of the story. It is the beginning. The beginning of a new chapter written with your courage, your presence, your love. The beginning of a life lived fully awake, fully alive. So do not run from fear. Do not build walls around it. Do not pretend it is not there. See it, feel it, invite it, open the door it guards, walk through it with patience and compassion. Because beyond it lies your freedom, your power, your truth. And in that truth, you become whole. Every mark on your hand is more than just a physical detail. It is a sign, a trace left by the battles you have fought within yourself. These lines, winding and crossing, are like a map, not of distant lands, but of your inner world. They tell stories of struggle, resilience, pain, and growth that no one else can see but you. To understand your lines is to understand your soul, to see the places where you have been wounded and the places where you have risen. The human experience is often described as a journey, but this journey is not always smooth. It is full of conflict, doubt, and hardship. The battles we fight inside are the hardest to recognize because they are invisible to the outside eye. They happen in silence, in moments when you are alone with your thoughts, when fear or anger rises unexpectedly, when doubt clouds your mind. These inner battles shape who you are more than any external event. Your lines are the echoes of those battles. They hold the memory of every time you faced a storm inside and did not give up. Every time you confronted your fears, wrestled with your shadows, struggled to find peace. These lines are not marks of shame or weakness, they are badges of honor. They are the proof that you survived, that you kept going when it would have been easier to quit. To see your lines as a map is to begin a new kind of journey, an inward journey. It is a journey that asks you to look carefully at the places where the lines bend or break. These places are often the places of greatest challenge. They may show where old wounds still ache, where fear still lurk, or where unresolved pain still calls for your attention. But these places are also the points where transformation can happen. Because where there is tension, there is potential. Where there is struggle, there is strength waiting to be born. Many people avoid looking at these inner battles. They try to forget the pain. They push down the memories. They cover the wounds with distractions or busyness. But this avoidance only keeps the battle alive in secret. It makes the wounds fester. It keeps you disconnected from your true self. Your lines remind you that true healing can only come when you face these battles with honesty and courage. The lines on your hand are like a secret language. They speak of your journey before you were even aware of it. They tell of the moments when you stood at the edge of despair and chose hope, when you felt broken but chose to rebuild, when you were lost but found your way again. They carry the wisdom of resilience, the knowledge that even in the darkest times, light can be found. Understanding this map requires deep self-awareness. It requires you to slow down and listen to yourself in a new way. Not just to your thoughts, but to your feelings. Not just to your plans, but to your body. Because your body remembers what your mind tries to forget. It remembers the battles you fought, even if you try to erase them from your story. This is why it is so important to honor your lines. To see them not as flaws, but as reminders of your courage. To treat them with respect and gratitude. Because without these battles, without these lines, you would not be who you are today. You would not have the depth, the wisdom, the strength that comes from having survived the storms inside. Your inner battles are not signs of weakness. They are signs of life. They show that you are alive, that you have felt deeply, that you have dared to struggle. They are the roots of your growth. And growth is never easy. It is messy, painful, and sometimes frightening. But it is also the most beautiful thing you can experience. When you accept your lines as a map of your inner battles, you begin to see your life differently. You see that your struggles have meaning, that your pain is not random or pointless, that every challenge has taught you something valuable. This perspective brings healing because it transforms suffering into wisdom, weakness into strength. The battles you fought within have shaped your character. They have forged your spirit like fire tempers steel. Each scar in your mind and heart is reflected in the lines on your hand. When you look at these lines, you are looking at your history, the history of your courage and your growth. And with this understanding comes a deep sense of respect for yourself. Self-respect is essential on this journey. It is what allows you to face your inner battles without fear or shame. It is what gives you the strength to forgive yourself for mistakes, to embrace your imperfections, and to keep moving forward, even when the path is hard. When you respect your own journey, you honor the battles that made you who you are. Your lines also remind you that you are not alone. Every person carries their own map of battles. Everyone has their own scars, their own stories of struggle and triumph. This shared human experience connects us all. It reminds us that suffering is universal, but so is resilience. You are part of a vast community of warriors walking their own paths. This connection brings comfort and strength. It means you do not have to carry your battles in isolation. You can share your story, find support, and inspire others with your courage. When you open to this connection, your battles become part of a larger story of healing and growth that includes all of humanity. The lines on your hand as a map of your inner battles are also a guide for your future. They show you where you have been strong, where you have been vulnerable, and where you still carry wounds. This knowledge helps you make better choices. It helps you avoid repeating old patterns that no longer serve you. It helps you move forward with wisdom and intention. This is why self-reflection is so important. Taking time to look at your lines, to meditate on what they mean, to listen to your inner voice. These practices help you stay connected to your map. They help you navigate the challenges ahead with clarity and grace. And they help you remember that every step, no matter how small, is part of your journey. Your lines also remind you to celebrate your victories. Every battle won, every fear faced, every moment of courage is a triumph. These victories may not always be visible to others, but they are deeply real to you. They deserve acknowledgement and celebration. When you honor your victories, you strengthen your spirit and fuel your resilience. Life will continue to bring challenges. Your inner battles will not end overnight, but with your map in hand, you can face whatever comes with confidence. You can approach each new challenge knowing that you have survived before, that you have the strength to survive again. You can trust in your own capacity to heal and grow. So your lines are a reminder that you are a warrior of your own soul. You have fought battles that few can see. You have faced fears that others may never understand. And you have come through, shaped but unbroken. This is your power. This is your gift. As you live your life, carry this understanding with you. When you feel doubt or despair, look at your lines and remember your journey. When you face new battles, know that you are not starting from zero. You are building on the foundation of all you have already overcome. The map of your inner battles is not just a record of the past, it is a living guide for your future. It invites you to continue the journey with courage and love. It encourages you to face your shadows and welcome your light. It calls you to become the fullest expression of yourself. In this way, your lines are sacred. They are a testament to your resilience. They are a celebration of your journey. And they are a call to keep moving forward with heart wide open and spirit unyielding. True freedom is not found in the absence of fear. It is found in the courageous act of facing fear directly, looking into its eyes and walking through it without turning away. The lines on your hand that reveal what you fear most are not chains meant to bind you, but invitations to freedom. They mark the places where your spirit has been tested, where your courage has been called forth, and where your true self is waiting to be discovered. To face these fear lines is to unlock the prison of limitation and open the gate to a life of boundless possibility. Many people live as if fear is a wall they must never touch, a darkness to avoid at all costs. They build their lives around safety and comfort, erecting barriers that keep fear at bay, but also keep their potential locked away. But this safety is an illusion. Fear does not vanish when avoided, it only grows stronger in the shadows. It whispers doubts, fuels anxiety, and quietly steals your vitality. True freedom, then, cannot be found in avoidance. It is found in courage. The courage to face what you fear most and walk through it. The lines on your hand are like ancient inscriptions, carved by time and experience. They are the script of your fear, the signature of your vulnerabilities. But these lines are not meant to frighten you. They are meant to guide you. They point to the exact places where your growth is waiting, where your liberation lies. When you learn to read these lines with openness and honesty, you begin to see fear as a teacher, not a tyrant. Fear becomes a gateway rather than a barrier. To face your fear lines is to meet yourself in your rawest form. It is a moment of profound vulnerability and profound strength. When you stand before these lines, you confront not just what you fear outside, but the deeper fear within, the fear of not being enough, of rejection, of failure, of loss, of the unknown. These are the fears that shape your world, the fears that hold you back from living fully. Yet, paradoxically, these fears also contain the seeds of your freedom. Imagine the courage it takes to open the door marked by your fear lines. It is not easy. The path beyond that door may be uncertain and challenging, but on the other side lies liberation. The freedom to be fully yourself, to pursue your dreams without hesitation, to love without reservation. This freedom is not granted by others. It is claimed by you through your willingness to face your fears. Many people shy away from this journey because it demands honesty. It demands that you look clearly at your shadows and stop hiding behind distractions or excuses. It demands that you sit with discomfort instead of running from it. But in that discomfort lies transformation. When you hold space for your fear with compassion, it begins to dissolve. It loses its power to control you. You begin to reclaim your energy and your life. Facing your fear lines also means breaking free from old stories that no longer serve you. Often, fear is fueled by narratives you have accepted as truth, stories of inadequacy, unworthiness, or limitation. These stories are not facts, they are interpretations shaped by past experiences and conditioned beliefs. By recognizing these stories, you gain the power to rewrite them. You realize that your fear is not a prophecy, but a challenge to grow beyond the limits you once believed. This rewriting process is deeply liberating. It is a process of reclaiming your identity and your voice. It is a journey of self-discovery where you peel away the layers of doubt and fear to reveal the core of who you truly are. Your fear lines, once seen as marks of weakness, become symbols of your resilience and courage. They become reminders of the battles you have faced and the freedom you have earned. Freedom is not a destination, but a way of being. It is living in alignment with your true self, free from the chains of fear and limitation. When you face your fear lines, you step into this way of being. You no longer live by avoiding pain, but by embracing life fully, with all its uncertainty and beauty. You become the author of your own story, writing it with intention and courage. This journey requires patience and kindness toward yourself. There will be moments of doubt, moments when fear seems overwhelming. But each time you choose to face your fear lines instead of retreating, you build your strength. You deepen your freedom. You expand your capacity to live, fully awake. Your fear lines also connect you to something greater, the universal experience of being human. Everyone carries fears. Everyone has their own battles. When you face your fear lines, you join a shared path of courage and transformation. You become part of a collective movement toward freedom and awakening. This connection brings support and inspiration. It reminds you that you are never truly alone. As you walk this path, you will find that your fear lines begin to shift. They soften. They become less intimidating. This does not mean fear disappears, but that your relationship with it changes. Fear becomes a companion, a guide that helps you navigate life with greater awareness and strength. You learn to listen to its messages without being ruled by them. The freedom that comes from facing your fear lines is profound. It is the freedom to live without apology, to express your truth boldly, to pursue your passions relentlessly, to love deeply and openly, to stand tall even when the world challenges you. This freedom is your birthright, waiting for you to claim it. Every moment you choose courage over fear, every step you take toward your fear lines, you move closer to this freedom. It is a gradual unfolding, a dance between fear and courage, vulnerability and strength. But with each step, you grow more alive, more connected, more whole. So do not shrink from your fear lines. Do not deny their presence or their power. Instead, see them as your greatest teachers. Open to the lessons they offer. Walk through the doors they guard. Embrace the freedom waiting on the other side. And in doing so, you transform not only your own life, but also the lives of those around you. Your courage becomes a beacon, your freedom a gift, your journey an inspiration. And in this journey, you discover the deepest truth, that true freedom is born not from escaping fear, but from facing it with an open heart and an unbreakable spirit.